So let's be honest, dogs are weird. And the smarter they are, the weirder they get. One minute they're snoozing like little angels, the next they're staring into a corner like they just saw a ghost. Some of these behaviors make you laugh, others make you wonder if your dog is plotting world domination. But here's the twist. A lot of those strange quirks actually prove just how smart your dog really is. Today we're breaking down 7 bizarre things genius dogs do and why they're not just random quirks. They're secret signs of doggy brilliance. 1. Tilting their head like they're judging you. We all know that look. You say, "Want to go for a walk?" And suddenly their head tilts to the side like they're trying to solve a complicated math problem. It's adorable, sure, but it's also a little mind-blowing when you realize what's actually happening in that furry head. Dogs tilt their heads to fine-tune their hearing, adjusting the angle of their ears to catch sound more clearly and pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. Think of it like adjusting the antenna on an old TV, only fluffier and 10 times cuter. But the really smart pups, they take it even further. That tilt isn't just about sound, it's about meaning. They're filtering your words, separating familiar ones like walk, treat, or ball from all the other human noise you babble at them throughout the day. In other words, it's their way of decoding your nonsense. And let's be honest, when they tilt, you melt. Suddenly, you're standing there repeating the word louder, slower, as if you've just landed in another country and forgot how to communicate. You point toward the door. You gesture wildly, and your dog just tilts again like, "Yes, keep going, human. I almost cracked the code." Which, when you think about it, is exactly how they train you. 2. Herding you around the house. You're walking from the kitchen to the living room, and suddenly your dog darts in front of you, circling or nudging your legs until you change direction. Annoying? Definitely. Random? Not even close. Herding behavior is hardwired into certain breeds, but even dogs without herding roots sometimes slip into it. Why? Because the smarter the dog, the more they see your movement as part of their daily job. You're their flock. And keeping you organized feels like success. To them, it's not just instinct, it's responsibility. Think about it. You head for the fridge, they block you. You try to walk down the hall, they push you toward the couch instead. It's not clumsiness, it's canine project management at its finest. And the funniest part is the smug satisfaction on their face when you finally give in and sit where they wanted you to. In their mind, they didn't just stop you from wandering aimlessly, they prevented total chaos and restored order. To us, it's mildly irritating. To them, it's a promotion. They're not just your pet anymore. They're your personal traffic controller, bodyguard, and life coach rolled into one. And honestly, they take that role very, very seriously. 3. Staring into space. Like they've seen a ghost. Every dog owner has been there. One minute your living room is peaceful, Netflix humming in the background, and your pup is sprawled on the rug snoring softly. The next minute, bam, total freeze frame. They snap upright, ears perked, eyes locked on some random corner of the room. The tail stiffens like an antenna, their breathing slows, and suddenly they're staring at absolutely nothing, or at least nothing you can see. That's when you start questioning reality. You lean in, whisper, "What are you looking at?" They don't blink, they don't move, just laser focus on that one empty spot. And in your head, you're like, "Cool. My house is haunted." But here's where things get spooky smart. Dogs have supercharged senses, sharper hearing than ours by miles, noses that can sniff out a single molecule in a sea of smells. When they zone out, it's rarely because they're spacing. It's because they've picked up something you completely missed. Maybe it's the faint squeak of pipes expanding behind the wall. Maybe it's your neighbor's footsteps echoing 3 houses down. It could even be the high-pitched hum of your electronics buzzing in the background. Things you've tuned out. They're dialed into like it's front-page news. The smartest dogs don't just hear it or smell it, they process it. That frozen stance isn't just shock, it's analysis. They're running a full mental checklist. Is this a threat? Is this something fun? Or is this just boring background static? It's like watching your dog do diagnostics on the entire universe, all while you stand there wondering if you should call a priest. And honestly, who can blame you if you blame it on ghosts? Because let's face it, when your dog stares into the dark hallway at 2 a.m. and won't break eye contact, you're not thinking about squeaky pipes, you're thinking about poltergeists. Meanwhile, your dog is probably just deciding if it's worth barking at the sound of a mouse sneezing 3 rooms away. 4. Rearranging your stuff like tiny interior designers. You leave the room for 5 minutes, come back, and suddenly your dog has dragged your shoe to the couch, nudged a blanket into a pile, or moved their toy collection into perfect formation. At first it seems destructive, but watch carefully. There's usually logic in the chaos. Smart dogs rearrange objects to build comfort zones, mark territory, or even send signals. A shoe next to the couch? They want you to sit down and stay. Toys lined up by the door? They're getting ready for playtime. Blanket balled into a heap? That's an impromptu throne. It's weirdly strategic. The more intelligent the dog, the less random the placement. You may think they're being messy, but in their head, they're basically running a home organization business, and honestly, they're probably better at it than you are. Sometimes it even borders on creativity. Some dogs build little nests or arrange objects in patterns that look suspiciously like artwork. Others seem to assign different meanings. A sock means comfort. A toy near the window means watch duty. And a blanket mountain means, this is my kingdom. What looks like mischief is often a form of problem solving. They're curating their environment to suit mood, purpose, and even communication. Next time you catch your dog redecorating, resist the urge to scold. You might just be witnessing a 4-legged genius at work, setting up their world one stolen slipper at a time. They're also leaving you clues. Every arrangement is like a little diary entry, a snapshot of their mindset. Were they bored, protective, playful, or craving closeness? Dogs may not write in journals, but they speak through their surroundings. Pay attention, and you'll start decoding their secret language of rearrangement. It's less mess and more message, if you're willing to read it. 5. Barking at nothing, but always at the same time. Nothing makes you question your sanity quite like your dog barking into the abyss. One second the house is quiet, the next they're standing at the window, hackles up, barking like the end of the world is about to roll into your driveway. You rush over, heart racing. And what do you see? Absolutely nothing. Just the same empty street you've been looking at all day, and you think, okay, maybe my dog's losing it, or maybe I am. But here's the twist. It's rarely nothing. Smarter dogs aren't just reacting to random sounds. They're excellent pattern spotters. That sudden burst of barking isn't always about what's happening in the moment. It's about what's about to happen. They've connected the dots you didn't even realize were there. Maybe the mail truck usually rattles down the block around 3 p.m., and your dog has locked it into their mental calendar. Maybe the neighbor always clatters their keys at the same time every evening, and your dog has built an alarm system around it. So when your pup seems to be barking into thin air, they might not be warning you of ghosts. They're flexing their predictive intelligence, basically announcing, "Don't worry, human, I know what's coming next." It's the guy in the uniform with the squeaky cartwheels. I called it. It's a little Sherlock Holmes impression, only with more drool. They've studied the rhythm of the day better than you have, and now they're narrating it in real time. Sure, it may drive you insane when they bark at what looks like nothing, but from their perspective, they've just cracked the code of the universe. And let's be real, half the time they're right. You roll your eyes, tell them to quiet down, and 2 minutes later, the delivery guy rings the bell. At that point, you have to admit, your dog just outsmarted you again. Even more fascinating, they don't just predict people, they anticipate your own routines. That sudden bark before you grab your keys isn't coincidence. They know you're leaving before you've even decided what shoes to put on. Some even bark at the exact moment dinner usually hits the bowl, as if they've got their own internal clock wired into your schedule. What looks like paranoia is often precision. So the next time your dog sounds the alarm at empty air, maybe trust them a little. To you, it's silence. To them, it's a perfectly timed announcement. Incoming event detected. Turns out, the household's best detective walks on 4 legs. 6. Pretending not to hear you. Selective Deafness 101. You call out, "Come here," and your dog freezes, stares into the distance, and suddenly transforms into a statue. Not a twitch, not a blink. Just pure Oscar-worthy acting, as if ignoring you makes them invisible. And you know, deep down, they heard you. Their ears twitched, their tail gave the tiniest flick. But they're not moving. Why? Because they decided your request doesn't make the cut. This is selective deafness, and believe it or not, it's one of the clearest signs of intelligence. It means your dog has figured out the great secret of life. Obeying is optional. Smart dogs don't just hear a command and instantly react like little robots. They pause, they evaluate, and they weigh your request against their own personal interests. You want them to come inside? Well, hold on. Is the treat you're offering better than the half-buried stick they've just discovered? You want them to sit? Okay, but does sitting now mean they'll miss out on whatever smells are wafting in from the kitchen? They're not being stubborn. They're negotiating. It's doggy economics at its finest. You said sit? They're running the mental math. 1 second of sitting equals 1 crunchy biscuit. Worth it? Probably. You said come here? They're comparing the value of your hug versus the thrill of chasing a squirrel up the tree. Sometimes, your offer just doesn't add up. It's hilarious when you think about it. They're not disobeying because they're bad. They're disobeying because they're smart. They figured out that your commands aren't laws, they're suggestions. And like any savvy negotiator, they only agree if the deal benefits them. Honestly, if they had thumbs, they'd probably draw up contracts. 7. Comforting you when you're sad. And finally, the one that completely melts hearts. Dogs who pick up on your emotions and act like 4-legged therapists. You're crying, and before you can even grab a tissue, they're already there, quietly pressing their head against your knee. You're anxious, pacing around the room, and suddenly they lean their whole weight into your side like a furry weighted blanket. You're sick, curled up on the couch, and they bring you their favorite toy. The one they never let anyone touch, as if to say, "This always makes me feel better, so it'll work for you too." This is more than simple loyalty. It's emotional intelligence. Smart dogs notice the micro shifts most humans overlook. The drop in your tone of voice, the change in your breathing rhythm, the way your shoulders slump when you're stressed. They connect those dots instantly. And the genius part isn't just noticing, it's deciding what to do about it. Some will lick your hand insistently, others will curl into your lap, and some will just sit close enough that you can feel their presence without feeling smothered. It's empathy, translated into action. And honestly, when they do it, you realize no human therapist could compete with the sheer healing power of a dog leaning on your arm like, "Don't worry, I've got you." It's quiet, it's unspoken, but it's real. And maybe that's the secret to their genius. Not that they can solve your problems, but that they instinctively know when all you need is someone, or in this case, some dog, to simply be there. So the next time your dog tilts their head, stares at the wall, or conveniently forgets you exist, don't just shrug it off as weirdness. These are the tells of a genius mind at work. They're decoding your words, organizing your life, predicting the future, negotiating like tiny diplomats, and healing your soul when you need it most. Smart dogs aren't just pets. They're partners with quirks, strategies, and more brain power than we often give them credit for. So let me ask you, which of these genius behaviors have you caught your dog doing? And which one cracked you up the most? Drop it in the comments. And while you're at it, hit that like button, share this with another dog lover, and subscribe for more deep dives into the incredible, hilarious, and downright brilliant world of dogs.